Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was a quiet Wednesday evening when Marissa stopped by Costco after work. She liked going during the last hour before closing, when the aisles were emptier and she could shop without the crowds. The fluorescent lights above buzzed faintly, and the smell of rotisserie chicken from the deli drifted through the warehouse. She grabbed a cart and began her usual route: produce, snacks, household supplies, before heading toward the back corner for bulk paper towels. As she turned down the cleaning supplies aisle, she noticed a man standing completely still near the shelves. His cart was empty, and his clothes were slightly disheveled, like he'd been outside for a while. His head was tilted, watching her silently. Marissa tried to ignore it, thinking maybe he was just zoning out, but when she pushed her cart forward, his head turned slowly to follow her. No blink, no smile, just a steady stare. She quickened her pace and rounded the corner into the frozen food section, relieved to see another shopper ahead. But when she glanced over her shoulder, the man was there again. This time, halfway down the aisle, no cart in sight, just standing. She felt a tight knot form in her stomach. Maybe he was just moving in the same direction coincidentally, but it didn't feel like coincidence. When she got to the refrigerated meat section, an announcement came over the intercom. "Attention Costco shoppers, the store will be closing in 15 minutes. She decided to skip the rest of her list and check out early. But as she made her way to the front, she noticed something strange. The registers closest to the exit were nearly empty. Usually there was a line, even at closing. The cashiers seemed tense, whispering to each other between transactions. Marissa got into a lane, unloaded her items, and tried to keep an eye on her surroundings. Then she saw him again, standing just outside the sliding glass exit doors, looking directly in. Even from a distance, she could see his face now. His eyes were wide, unblinking, and his lips were slightly parted like he was mouthing something she couldn't hear. Her cashier handed her receipt quickly, almost urgently, and said, "Have a good night." But her tone was wrong. It sounded like a warning. Marissa took her cart and walked toward the exit, heart pounding. The man was gone. As she pushed her cart into the dark parking lot, she scanned the rows of cars. That's when she noticed movement. 2 rows over, a figure crouched low between vehicles. She tried to pretend she didn't see it and hurried toward her car. The moment she popped the trunk, she heard footsteps rushing toward her. She spun around and saw him, now only a few feet away, grinning in a way that made her skin crawl. Before he could get closer, a Costco security guard came sprinting from the store, shouting. The man bolted into the darkness between parked trucks, disappearing completely. The guard told Marissa they'd been watching him on the cameras for almost 20 minutes. He had no membership card, no purchases, and had been pacing the aisles following certain women around the store. The unsettling part? They had no idea how he'd gotten inside. Marissa drove home that night with every mirror checked twice. Weeks later, she still couldn't step foot in that Costco without feeling eyes on her from somewhere in the aisles, waiting for her to shop alone again. If you want, I can also give you an even more disturbing Costco horror story based on a real case where an intruder actually hid inside the warehouse until after closing. That one is chilling in a very different way.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 2.
It was just after 8:30 p.m., a slow Tuesday night, when the last of the shoppers filtered out of the Costco. The store was quiet, the air humming faintly with the sound of refrigeration units. David, a 27-year-old night stalker, liked this time. No screaming kids, no carts slamming into his shins, just rows of towering shelves and the faint smell of bulk detergent. He clocked in, grabbed his box cutter, and started his usual route. Around 9:45, he noticed something strange in the paper goods aisle. One of the giant packs of toilet paper had been ripped open, neatly, like it was cut with a knife, and inside, some of the rolls were missing. David assumed it was just a customer who'd gotten desperate earlier in the day, but as he turned to leave, he swore he saw something move behind the stack. It wasn't the kind of movement you see from a mouse or rat. This was slow, deliberate, like someone shifting their weight. He called out, "Hey, store's closed!" No answer. He stepped closer, peering between the towers of products, but there was nothing there. Still, the hair on the back of his neck prickled. He told himself it was just his imagination and went back to stocking the cereal section. By 11 p.m., the store was eerily cold. He kept hearing faint noises, paper crinkling, metal shelves rattling, coming from different aisles. When he asked another stocker, Mel, if she heard it too, she gave him a confused look. "I've got my earbuds in, man. What noises?" Around midnight, he was refilling the freezer section when he saw something that made his chest tighten. Down at the far end of the aisle, past the glass doors, there was a man. Not a coworker, no vest, no name tag. He was tall, thin, wearing a dirty gray hoodie with the hood pulled low over his face. The man wasn't shopping or moving like he belonged there. He was just standing, perfectly still, staring at David through the frost-covered glass. David froze, then shouted, "Sir, we're closed!" The man didn't respond, didn't even blink. Then, in the span of a second, he stepped sideways out of sight, almost too quickly, like he'd melted into the shadows. David dropped his box cutter and ran to the end of the aisle. Nothing. The freezer doors were all shut, the next aisle empty. He told the manager, but the security cameras didn't show anything. No man in a hoodie. No movement at all. By the time the shift ended at 4 a.m., David felt wrung out. As he was leaving, he passed by the giant pallet of toilet paper again. There, on the floor where he first thought he saw movement, was a single roll, unwrapped, the cardboard tube neatly hollowed out. Inside it, stuffed deep, was a crumpled Costco receipt dated 6 years earlier with David's own name on it from a purchase he didn't remember making. The next night, he didn't come back to work. If you want, I can make you one even darker that reveals what was inside Costco after closing.
Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 3.
It was a rainy Tuesday evening when Melissa decided to stop by Costco after work. The store was unusually quiet for that time of day, with the vast warehouse aisles echoing every small sound. She didn't plan to stay long, just to grab some snacks and paper towels, but something about the atmosphere made her uneasy the moment she walked in. The fluorescent lights above flickered faintly in the far corner, and a damp, metallic smell hung in the air, one that didn't belong in a store selling rotisserie chickens and bulk detergent. Melissa wandered toward the back, near the frozen food section, when she noticed a man standing perfectly still in one of the aisles. He was tall, wearing a hood pulled low, and he was facing away from her. At first, she thought he might just be looking at the shelves, but after a few seconds, she realized he wasn't moving at all, not even to adjust his weight. Feeling a little creeped out, she pushed her cart past, but as she did, she caught a glimpse of his face in the reflection of a freezer door. His eyes were wide open, staring directly at her, even though his head was still facing forward. Her heart jumped, and she quickly turned down another aisle. A few minutes later, as she was picking up a case of bottled water, she saw him again at the end of the row, still standing perfectly still, but now closer. This time, there was no mistaking it. He was watching her. She glanced around, but the store felt almost deserted, just a couple of employees stocking shelves far in the distance. Melissa abandoned the bottled water and decided to head toward the registers. But when she turned a corner, she stopped dead in her tracks. The man was there, just a few feet away, still motionless, hood hiding most of his face. He slowly raised his hand and pointed toward the back of the store without saying a word. A shiver ran through her as she realized she could hear faint footsteps behind her. She spun around, no one was there. But when she looked back at the man, he was gone. Panicked now, she rushed to the front, only to find that every register lane was empty, and the employees she'd seen earlier were nowhere in sight. The sliding glass doors to the parking lot were closed, but when she tried to push them open, they didn't budge. Behind her, somewhere in the maze of aisles, she heard the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Melissa backed up, her breathing shallow, eyes darting toward the shadows between towering shelves. The dragging sound grew louder, and she realized with a jolt that it was coming from multiple directions, like something, or several somethings, were closing in. Suddenly, the overhead lights went out, plunging the store into darkness, except for the faint glow of the emergency exit signs. She sprinted toward one, weaving through the aisles, hearing the sound of hurried footsteps now chasing her. Just before she reached the door, she glanced over her shoulder and saw shapes, tall, human-like but wrong, emerging from the dark. Their faces were pale, eyes wide and unblinking, and they moved without bending their knees. Melissa shoved through the emergency exit and burst into the rain-soaked parking lot. When she turned to look back, the door was already swinging shut, and behind the small glass window, she swore she saw that hooded man again, standing perfectly still, watching her leave. She never went back to that Costco again, and when she told the police, they claimed the security footage from that night showed her shopping completely alone. If you want, I can make the next one even more disturbing by using actual Costco layout details and documented incidents to make it feel terrifyingly real.